I wonder if you might help us. You see, our car broke down a few miles up the road. Is your phone we might use?
People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise.
I hope you were able to hear that. If not, go to my locals page, TonyCaravanLive.locals.com, and listen to it there. You people are in for a big surprise. Greetings and felicitations, folks. ROCKFLUX Live 1019, Living in a World of Illusion is the title of the show. 5:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the former United States on this October 19th. It's a Tuesday in the calendar year 2021. The fall of Western civilization has already occurred. And we are now living in the remnants of a once, I guess some would call, a great empire that is gradually falling apart. I give it 6 to 18 months before things get so out of control, it's beyond belief. Now, all that said, I guess it's time we...
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
And for some reason, this coffee tastes a little like burnt. But it's not burnt, it's just strong, super strong. I guess this is where someone would put some like sugar or cream, you know, like in that weird, that movie, that Tarantino movie. I don't like Tarantino, but, you know, the original Tarantino movie that brought him to fame with Travolta. And then they made 17,000 movies with Travolta in, and it was like, sorry, man, you did good in that one, but, you know. But there was that one scene when the fixer came in and he got some coffee from the guy, and he goes, good coffee. And while they're cleaning up this, ridiculous scene, whatever they did, Anyway, that's...
Taking you back to the realms and depths of time.
Yeah, you people are in for a big surprise. See, I can't hear... For some reason, when I put an audio thing on here, I can't hear it. So I'm just hoping that it works, because I'm going to play it again. And if not, like I said, you can go to my local site.
People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise.
Yeah. And yesterday, I set up a new shirt. Freedom is fun. Okay? So that is now available. Now, these are basically simple shirts. I decided I'm not getting out of control with these things, and the shirts aren't expensive. It's not like you're paying, $40 for some custom shirt. These are like $18 shirts, and if you buy them, you get 15 within the next 2 months. Over certain periods of time, there's 15 to 20% discount, and sometimes it's free shipping. So, it's just like buying a shirt, and they're good shirts. So, freedom is fun, You've seen it here long enough. Now it's officially for sale. If you go to TonyCaravanLive.com or ROCKFLUX Live or ROCKFLUX.com, you'll find a link to that. So, freedom is fun, my friends. Anyway, it's time
The Weather Watch forecast.
And here we are, the former United States of America. This is the latest satellite photo taken just a few hours ago. So this is kind of what it looks like right now. More or less, some of those clouds have moved slightly to the right, probably. And as you can see, the East Coast, actually east of the Mississippi and more, is pretty well clean. It's going to be a sunny day in the northern areas, like particularly in my neck of the woods. I guess we're going up to like the mid-60s, 64. Tomorrow's going to be 66 and sunny. Overnight 46 tonight. Currently it's 43 degrees where I am right now. And I was just out in the front porch, took some breath of fresh air. So I had a bit of a slight headache, and I didn't know what that was from. Thought it was maybe from breathing house air. Just north of me, it's like 39 degrees. So we're getting into the definitely cooler nights. Thursday's supposed to be warmer, but there's thunderstorms. And that's why I'm kind of worried a little bit, that I might be looking at a situation like this again. I still never heard from that roofer guy unless he's planning on showing up today. If he doesn't, I'm going to cancel him. And I've got my own ideas. We started to talk about that before. But anyway, back to the weather. So as I said, it's going to be, you could tell by looking at the satellite picture, it's clear skies. Starry night, as I say. Great Lakes are all clear sailing out there. And apart from that little stretch of clouds up in the midsection, up through parts of eastern Texas, and something going on in the Great Plains, and as always, a little bit off the coast of the upper extreme northwest U.S. and our neighbors to the north, Canada. Mexico has a little bit of stuff floating around here or there. So that's that, not pretty much a nice day for most folks. I know there's some harvesting going on out there, in some parts, so hopefully they're not getting rained out, because I know if it's a certain humidity or something to do with that, they could go direct into the silos or something like that. But if it's wet, then they've got to dry it out, or I don't know.
The Weather Watch forecast.
I don't know specifically what it is. I've watched some girl occasionally who does that sort of stuff, and I've kind of gotten a little bit of information that way.
Your papers, please.
It's getting more and more absurd out there, isn't it? Isn't it crazy? I was going to put the news, the Google News on the screen, but I looked at it and it was just so, like I say, you can't use these words. Surreal, absurd, bizarre. They don't even come close. It's just so weird. And that's why I put that. And again, hopefully you heard Christopher Walken, what he was saying. If you didn't, like I said, TonyCaravanLive.locals.com. I have that clip up, and you will hear the audio in case you did. You probably did. It's just that, like I say, I'm tied into the old this computer over here, and it's just a whole different world, that kind of thing. So my headphones have to. I'm hearing this mic goes through a mixer. Those sound effects are in the same mixer, and that allows me to. When I play music, play sound effects, hear my voice, I know what's going on. But that all feeds into this machine. So when I put in a video file that has audio on it that's on this machine, There's no way that's looping back into here. If I did, it would get it would be like a feedback loop. I just get this, thing. So just so you understand, for those who don't understand audio. Anyway, since we're not dealing with any kind of newsy thing today, let's get into the featured record. And this one is Thomas Dolby, The Golden Age of Wireless. And most people would know this. I mean, he had one of the better videos on the early MTV, She Blinded Me with Science, right? Mrs. Yakamoto, you're beautiful, And as a real scientist, but, there's some good stuff on there. One of Our Submarines, that's a great tune on here, this is definitely an album, which I try to feature, that you can literally put it on and listen to the entire thing. So ask your voice assistant, to play Thomas Dolby, The Golden Age of Wireless, and it won't let down. If you remember the album, or if you haven't heard it in a long time, it's worth taking a re-listen to. If you've never heard it, check it out. It's good music. It's interesting. It's like electro. He was using the drum machines and some of that kind of stuff. He was a pioneer in that. And then when the internet came along, he actually was trying to develop, and I was participating in the test, and I had some back and forth, I believe, with him once or twice. He was testing a different way. This is my take on it. Now, this is a long time ago. We're talking about the early days of the internet. But what he was doing is he had this idea that the biggest problem with like real audio, which was the the early, and forget MP3 files in the days of dial-up, is that bandwidth was very, 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 low. So the idea was, in order to get music over, this tiny, tiny pipeline, he thought, what if we could put part of the sounds in the program? So you download a program, and this is my take on it. I may be wrong, but I was partially involved in testing it. So I'm pretty sure this is it, but we're talking this is over 25 years ago, around that time. Yeah, it was 25. Yeah, it was at least 25 years ago or more. And you downloaded he thought he would put the sounds in all of these things, particularly MIDI, a lot of stuff that's like, if you understand what MIDI is, like a MIDI keyboard and how they work, that this stuff would be inherent in the program itself, so that what you had to send over the line was more or less just, ones and zeros instructions on what sounds that already were resident on your computer, and it would sort of put that together into a rebuild the song, right? It almost, if you really think about it, the way I looked at it, it was kind of like a transporter, in effect, where what really, like on, like I said, never let a good Star Trek reference go to waste. Hey, Scotty, did you notice that Jimbo got up in space, and he's 90 years old? I didn't know he was 90. Jimbo's 90, oldest man to go up in space. And he was taken aback by it. I saw his brief little interview afterwards. So, Captain Kirk finally made it to space. TC out. But the idea of the transport, every time you were transported, it wasn't really you anymore. So, like, you know, if you were transported 10 times or 100 times, there was 100 different yous, technically, right? Because it literally took apart your, your molecular, atomic, whatever, structure, and then reassembled it, at a location, via like a radio signal type of thing, a signal, and then it like rematerialized in a sense. So it dematerialized, rematerialized. And Dolby, I think, was trying to do that. He's not watching this show, but I'm pretty sure that's what he was doing. But anyway, golden age of wireless, worth checking out. Music feature for the day. Okay, you happy with that? Don't mind me. I was in a weird mood. A slight little headache behind my right eye. It's happened to me before. And then it went away. And then I figured it out. I don't know. I might just need to... The show, we're brutally honest. Might just need a bowel movement or something like that. Or I could have just strained my neck. Whatever the case is, it'll go away. It's either that or it's, a tumor from them giving me the CT scan that I didn't need that time I went to the whatever. All right, so we're going to push the limit again. I watched the Apple Mac event, okay? And I'm going to go to the official Apple site and take you with me. I don't want to see so I'm just going to send you to this. So we're going to go display capture and properties. Where are we? Apple. Okay. I know it looks weird for a second, but we'll get right there. Now, this is how they opened it up. They said it was about music and the Mac. All right. HomePod Mini. You know what they kind of look like? Those things you put out on your deck. Citronella candles, don't they? Look like a citronella candle. Bueller. Anyway, so you've never heard color like this. So anyway, you see what Hey Siri play, you see what's going on now? Now, while we're here, not sure if this will happen or not. Well, it doesn't matter. I have a copy of it. I'm just going to ditch this now. Because, there's no need to deal with that anymore. They copied the Amazon Echo Dot, right? It's a copy of the Echo Dot. So let me just, I think I have one somewhere on my computer. Let me just browse. Let's see. Echo Dot. Apple search stinks, but I do believe I have one. Yeah, here's one. Okay. So there's the Echo Dot, right? And basically you say, instead of Siri, you use, I can't say the name because there's one in the other room and it activated. You say, Alexa, play me, Thomas Dolby's Wireless album. And so this thing, and this, what's really cool, unlike, you could, I've got two of these. I have one that looks exactly like this. And then I have one that's more of a round hockey puck type of thing. So very disappointed from Apple. I can't believe it. I mean, I don't know if Amazon's going to sue them or not. I mean, it's a circular, in other words, applying for a patent. What would the patent read? A circular speaker that is voice activated to a voice assistant that plays music through the speaker from, tied to a service and a voice assistant. Do you see what I mean? It's like a direct copy. And they opened the frickin' show with it, Now, they went on to get involved with a Mac. For those who haven't seen it, they have this new chip, this M1 Pro and M1 Max for their laptop, for their Mac laptop pro laptops, or whatever they call them, MacBook Pros. I'd love to get one, to be honest with you. It is an incredible... See, this was the thing. You open the show with these citronella candles that are basically a copy of something that Amazon has had out now for well over a year or more, right? That I've been using and is the exact same thing, and it's cheaper. Amazon's cheaper. You could pay like $7.99 a month. The Apple ones cost like $99 or something like that. Amazon's you can buy for like $34 or something like that. And if you have an Amazon Prime thing, you get the basic music, and you could upgrade with Amazon to get like unlimited music, right? For an extra fee, but you don't have to. And you still get plus you still get the use of this device and this voice assistant, etc. So Apple opens up this special event, their October event, with the citronella candle, and pushing it as if the colors are like, oh, this is the big deal, which may be something their lawyers said, stress the color, because theirs are black and white and ours are colorful, I don't know. I think a good attorney, I think there's a lawsuit there. I mean, it seems funny to me. At the very least, it's embarrassing as hell. Embarrassing as hell. It's the exact same thing, just more expensive. And I think actually Amazon does have some colors, and they have ones that have like a time clock on it. They have some interesting stuff. They've done some really, really good. They're already into fourth. I think they might be approaching the fifth generation. So yeah, these things have been out for a long time. But then they went, okay, so that's that. That was very disappointing. This is what I've been trying to tell you about Apple. Here's this $1 trillion company, minus Jobs, minus Johnny Ive, who started up his own company. See, if Johnny Ive was there, he'd have come up with something funky looking, right? That would have been like, a different, something different, right? The whole idea of Apple, think different, whatever. And it would have been this cool thing, that you could... maybe hang on the wall or lay flat on a table, right? Or, it's like they were speaking of Star Trek. There was this once where they went into some place and they found this thing, and it was covered with something, and it was a light panel, from some futuristic society. And it was just this panel that lit up the room once they took this cloth that was covering it over. And you could hang it on the wall, you could lean it somewhere, you could do whatever. Nobody's really invented one of those yet. We'll see if But yeah, that's what I would have done. I would have created this innovative thing that you could, hang or sit or whatever. Or why not make it pyramid shape, right? Or a cube, right? At least anything but to copy, I mean, you saw it here. Well, not that. That's our thing. Where is the darn thing? I just moved it. What do they do with the darn thing? Is this it? Where is it? Somehow it made it to the top again. I want to move it out of the way because I'm done with it, but we may want to have future use it. But basically, it's an echo. That's the echo dot here, what I'm showing you, and you saw the others. So why couldn't they just come up with a cube or a pyramid? Right? A pyramid would have been funky, right? Or some kind of like octagonal, some other geometric form, futuristic. 2021, we're living in the 21st century. Instead, they come out with something that's just like, looks like a citronella candle from the 1960s, right? That's what, I mean, and, I hope I'm not I just made that up, that name, but I'm sure other people will do it. It's just like other people have called since I've left this other Mac computer, they call it the cheese grater because it looks like a cheese grater. And it's like, so their Mac is a cheese grater and their audio portable music speaker is a citronella candle, outdoor deck candle. If you don't know what citronella means, it's a bug candle to keep bugs away. Disappointing as hell. To be tied in on the same program as this M1 Pro Max chip. Forget the Pro one. The Max chip is the one. They always do that. They have like two because it's like price points type of thing. Because they have the M1, M1 Pro, and the M1 Max. Right? And so there's 3 laptops you can buy. And so one starts at, $17.99, $19.99, and $24.99. Starting at. But if you really want the Max Pro, right, chip in a Pro, and they're only 16, diagonal, it's a diagonal of 16-inch thing, like as if that's a big thing. See some of these PCs that come out, they're like 18, 19 inches and stuff like that. They're like, you can really use them as a computer. Now this has an HDMI out and it has various Thunderbolts and stuff. But still, it's a laptop, and so you're plugging it into something else, and it's just not the same, But anyway, the power of this chip is incredible. It truly is. And I'd love to buy one, and to get a really tricked out system, you'd probably be talking well over $5,000, I would say. Probably more. Yeah, definitely over $5,000. Between $5,000 and $10,000 if you got the M1 Max Pro chip in the Pro 16 point whatever laptop. I mean, and people are suckers, and they'll sell these things because, Apple's it's like it's become like an elitist thing. And so people don't care about price, and Apple knows that. And so people are going to buy these $99 citronella candles and not care that they could get, one half price at Amazon if they already have an Amazon. Who doesn't have an Amazon Prime account? I think practically everybody does. I mean, it's one of the best deals out there, and I don't get any money from it. But I mean, if you think about it, you get free shipping, all right? You get music, you get movies, you get Amazon Prime Video, so you get movies and series and stuff, and if you pick up the Fire and all their devices are cheaper, like their Fire Stick or their thing, their Echo Dot, whatever. And they also have these deals on these things where you could pay like $7.99 or $6.99 a month for a couple of months to buy it. So it's like built-in payment plans, no questions asked, no credit type of thing. As long as you got an account with them. Because they got your credit card, I guess, or whatever. So that was weird and disappointing. And, but to be honest, I'm a Mac person. These are all Macs I have. And I'd love to, have one of those Pro chips, the Max chips, I mean. But, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting one of those. The amount of money. And I guess they'll introduce that in the iMacs next year. So that would be a consideration, I guess. But, technically, apart from the speed, this is just a super fast computer, is what it is. It's a super fast computer. And they call them the MacBook Pro, because, they're pushing this for professionals, right? And people who are doing editing and filmmakers. And, the country's become so caught up in this. They're trying to, basically what's really this is trying to do, it's to keep this alive. Because you noticed in one of the photos I showed you how it's integrated with the iPhone, right? And they're doing everything they can to keep this technology that has come and gone. It's time to let go of this thing. The smartphone era is over. And I keep trying to say this, and I know that people just don't want to hear it because, they become literally attached to this. Oh, me precious, right? Oh, me precious, right? Like in Lord of the Rings. But it's over. Those days are over. There is really no need for that. In fact, you need to realize freedom is fun. Get your freedom is fun shirt. Free yourself from the smartphone. My chair fell down again. So annoying. Somebody send me some Bitcoin via locals. Get myself a new chair and stuff. I should set up a P.O. box. Send me cash. Like the new thing now, Biden is going to, any transaction, $600 or more in your bank account is going to be reported to the IRS. So they could collect, tax every transaction. Yeah, you can be sure at the same time that, all of the high-ranking elitists will still have their loopholes. And that story I told you the other day about how everyone in Congress are inside, how they're inside traders, and if they get caught, the fine is $200 if they made like $5 or $8 million on a trade, inside trade. Imagine that. If Martha Stewart had an inside trade, I mean, someone like her should be really, really pissed off. Martha Stewart just like talked to somebody about something one time or something. They considered it an inside trade, and they sent her to prison for a year or something. Remember that? Martha Stewart, good old wholesome Martha Stewart. Here's how you make cookies. They sent her for a year. But Nancy Pelosi, made $5 million on an inside trade. Actually talked to Tim Cook, speaking of Apple, like really, and nobody's talking about even doing anything to her. And she won't even get the $200 fine. Do you understand the corporatocracy and the ruling elite and the dirty dealings that go on, and how these people are, the scum of the earth is really, they talk about saving the planet. Yeah, we'll scrape the scum of the earth off. Put them on one of these Virgin, Atlantic flights or whatever Kirk took up to space, and leave them up there, Man, it's ridiculous. But I think it's going to self-destruct. I was telling someone yesterday, I think this whole thing will self-destruct, by the end of the year. Probably not by the end of the year. With the holidays, people always manage ways to, they're sending people. I don't have any. I'm looking down because I get them every other day. They're sending out all these credit card things. I just rip them up. Sometimes I used to make it a habit of showing them like every other day on my show. But I noticed that they're giving, anybody can get a credit card, and they're giving these things out. And so the holiday season is coming up, and so I'm sure a lot of people have gotten these cards. Now, some of them are right in your face, blatant, like 36% interest with $125 annual fee that's deducted from, before they even send you the card. So you get the card and you're already paying 36% interest on $125. I mean, that's how messed up it is. But people do it because they're desperate, right? It's like the payday loan type of thing that they victimize the poor with, right? So that's what I'm saying. These hypocrites in Congress and these people who are on the media, all this stuff has been going on for decades. This isn't new. This isn't partisan. It's the whole political ruling elite class, right? That have been doing this. Well, anyway, one of the other key things to notice, I'm sure you get these in the mail, is before you rip it up and throw it away like I always do, I just rip them up and throw it away. Look at under the interest. If you happen to see one that isn't 36% interest, if you see one that's in the 20s and you go, that's not bad, look under it, and it's an adjustable APR. And I listen to Bloomberg every now and then because, like I said, I don't follow the news, but I will follow the financial news because I want to got to keep your eye on the ball, like what's going on. Follow the money, and you'll know what's happening in a corporatocracy, right? Who cares what these talking heads, $20 million a year, little dancing dolls on TV, right? Talk about, right? These sitting down on these brightly lit sets, right? That's why I like my dark set, 6:28 a.m. But if you follow the financial news, you'll see that interest rates will be going up. And I've heard it spoken by, countless people in interviews that by the end of next year, interest rates are going to be rising. See, right now, interest rates are so low that if you get a certain interest rate on a card, it is what it is. But what happens is when interest rates rise, then they can raise that APR, adjust that to whatever a percent, whatever the percentage interest rates raise is, or even more. Who knows what? I mean, the print on the back of those things is like micro print. You need more than magnifiers to even read that. And you don't even know if that's a full thing. Some of those things have references to other things that aren't even included on there. And then Congress passes all kinds of stuff to protect themselves, but also that protect the banks, financiers, and traders, and all these credit card companies. So, that's just another way they're victimizing the average person, the working poor, the wage slave, basically, a wage slave. And so people are going to be in this. That's what this big surprise thing is.
People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise.
So people are in for a big surprise. Because they're going to freak out. And when I say wage slave, I haven't said that word in a while, and some people don't really grasp that. If you are making X amount of money, and that money pays your mortgage, rent, or rent, but taxes, insurance, car payments, car insurance, utility bills, right? Food, everything, cost, just your cost of living. And that's why in my book, I always put in this, and this book is not a financial book, and doesn't give even anything to do with that. I could never find this. The last time I looked for it, I couldn't find it. I keep forgetting where I put it. Here it is. But I always throw these in my book, and it's my fingers are hiding it. It's like a monthly budget thing, if you can see that. You see that? Trash removal, internet, cable TV, cell phone, water, sewer, auto insurance, fuel, taxes, credit cards, loans, subscription fees, groceries, personal items, luxury items, medical expenses, all that stuff, right? I always put a page like that in there, give you a worksheet, a couple of worksheets in there, actually. But, that's not what the book is. The book's just a flow of consciousness. It's worth reading. There's a horror story in there, too, like I said. So, if you fill out that thing or one of those things or whatever, and I can't believe how many people have accountants. My whole life I've run businesses. Okay, I've run my own businesses. I've been in charge of businesses, and then I've just even on my own personally, I've never ever had an accountant do my taxes. I've always done my taxes. Even before towards, in the, advent of, whatever it's called, QuickBooks is part of it, but, the online thing, whatever the service is, you could do it online. I'm not even worried about bothering to think about it. But I've utilized, when technology came in, I've used technology just for the sake of, but you still had to manually keep your records and, create piles of, receipts for this thing, for this, for your various deductions, etc. But I always did it myself, there were times I paid in, I paid into the tax system. That's why I say I don't mind. At this point, I get, as retiring early, so to speak, there's certain what they call benefits, but they're not really benefits. It's like you paid in, you take out, you giveth to the tax man and, you get it back. Right. So, I paid my share of taxes for many, many decades. And, and there were some times I got tax returns, but most of the time it was like zero. I paid in more than I ever got out of the U.S. government, Treasury, because I was running companies and, usually I was making a profit, so it was like I paid my taxes. But it wasn't because I needed an accountant to find me some loopholes. And like if I would have hired some accounting stooge, I would have like suddenly saved, got a couple of grand back. No, there's no magic to that. Like I always say, what one human can do, another human can do. It's just a matter of focus, right? Focus, concentration. Contemplation, concentration, right? Put your eye on the ball, focus on something, and you can do it. And don't let anybody tell you you can't. So, I was talking about these credit cards. Anyway, the interest rates are going up. And so there's going to be a lot of people next year, come tax time, I think is going to be reckoning next spring. And the first and second quarter, the first time, a lot of times the end of the year, like January sometimes is bad because people have to, it's a day of reckoning for all those, all the holiday, frivolity and like, oh, we'll just, buy this, and that, all those bills come due and payable in January and February. And then tax time comes along and, and then people are, got to pay those taxes. And so, and it depends on when your, certain businesses' fiscal years end at certain times. It's a fiscal year. It's not like it's not like everybody else's year. Your fiscal year of a corporation is like when you're incorporated or what you've set up. So, your fiscal year could begin in September, or something like that. That's what a fiscal year means, in case you don't know that term. So many things we talk about. So, the day of reckoning's coming. People are in for a big surprise. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be maxed out with credit cards, and a lot of poor people, what I call like wage slaves, that's why I brought that thing out, are going to, if you're just getting by, but you think you're living comfortable. Forget about the people that are living miserable lives, lives of quiet desperation, like if there's people in my neighborhood, I'm sure, who are like really struggling, but they find ways to survive, I mean, they're, it's the stuff that people don't talk about, but, it's like, it's why they hang out in the bars and why they drink and do the things they can and self-medicate and stuff, because their life is so miserable and they're caught in this trap that they just can't get out. Right. So they find their release, their somehow, freedom of mind in being inebriated. I mean, it's a sad, pathetic thing, but that's just the way it is. And what else are they going to do? And it's easy for someone else out to look and say, well, you need to get help. You need to go to AA or something, or Al-Anon, or Arcanon, or Monarchanon, whatever the heck these things are. And it's like, yeah, but put yourself in that shoe and see what it's really like. Right? And that's my problem I have with these elite, right? These people out there, see, I make no mistake about it. I talk about this, and this is what I'm talking about right now, in the title of this show, which, I might as well put up, You Are Not Free. I don't know why, for some reason, I'm getting this weird red dot, but I got rid of it. Okay. But you are not free. You are merely presented with choices that all have predetermined outcomes. And we'll get more into that as I get into this. But I want to continue this talk about, these people, when you watch TV, you watch the MSNBCs and these bleeding heart type of people. Yeah, Fox News is the same thing. They're all the same. All right. People talking about as if they care for the downtrodden, for the average person or something like that. Like this whole political gamesmanship, right? The team, whatever team you're on, team blue, team red. It's all hogwash, man. It's hogwash. People are completely out. Those people are making so much money, they are completely out of touch with what it's like to live here at the poverty level. Okay? There's no one watching my show because nobody wants to hear this, the truth. You see? They don't want to hear this. Right? Right. And and they don't want to understand, and this is ways of getting through it. That's why I say you don't know what you don't know. Everything you know is wrong. It's game over and all that happy horse shit. But freedom is fun. So I'm not complaining. And I'm trying to offer advice and help on how I get through it and why life is good or can be good. But you've got to avoid the pitfalls, and you can't listen to these millionaires, multimillionaires on TV in these brightly lit studios that are pretending they're on your side. They're not. It's like these politicians. And like I say, I talk about Pelosi, but Rand Paul, and Republicans, they're the same way. Rand Paul, I think, had an $8 million trade or something like that he didn't report. Made $8 million on a trade. It's all of them. Do you see? But there's people out there applauding, one or the other, or, it's their team. It's not a team, man. These people are fucking you over. All right? They only care about themselves. That's the reality of it. I mean, wake up. So-called wokeism, whatever that is. They're not awake. Like, I don't know what they mean. Woke. Maybe there should be a Y on that word. I think they're spelling it wrong. It's like yolk because they got egg in their face. Because they're not awake. They're not really awoke, right? I don't know why they call it wokeism. I mean, I always like, every time I hear people say that, like even like Tim Pool, I watch him every now and then. He seems to have his head together. And he'll be like, and he'll talk about these woke, and they'll criticize it or something like that. But I'm like, what do you mean? What? Why are you even using that word? They're not woke. They're not awakened. They're not awake. They don't see reality. Right? You got the wrong language. You know, call it what it is. They get egg on their face. You know, Nancy Pelosi isn't woke. She's got egg on her face. She got caught, trading, inside trading. Her husband, talking to Apple and making a trade and making $5 million on the trade. Come on. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody gives a shit. Right? So, and they don't care about the poor and these brightly lit studios, and they talk about stuff, and then they try. Now, here's some good news, finally, Get lost. The average person is struggling. And when I was talking about the wage slave, these people, whether you live in, there's people that live in these big neighborhoods and they these big houses and they got their SUVs and these multi-car garages and all this stuff. Their kids sent off to college and all this bull happy horse shit. But they're wage slaves. Just making a hell of a lot of money, but they're wage slaves. Because even in the six figures, right? 5 and 6 figure levels, the low 6 figures more or less, but the high 5, 6 figures and the low, or the high 5 figures and the low 6 figures, okay? People making, closer to the 7-figure level or the high 6 figures, it's a different story. Okay, now you're approaching, right, where you've got, you've got enough cash that there's extra, right? And you can live a better life, right? But everyone else is you're a wage slave, whether you even get a wage or whether you call it a wage or a salary. Because the fact is, you're still more or less just a paycheck or 2 or 3 away from poverty. As opposed, I live in the poverty level, and so I'm not a paycheck away from anything. I'm retired. I have retirement income, but that retirement income is below the poverty line. So my cost of living, my mortgage, taxes, and insurance are less than $200 a month because I bought a cheap piece of property. I searched for one, found it. I have problems with it. Okay. But it's the struggle of life. You got to do something. You got to deal with it. This is the other thing people have, as if life is supposed to be some plush, posh. We're all supposed to live in some oceanfront property with floor-to-ceiling windows looking out on a beach. And I've done that. I've lived in Malibu, and basically had a jacuzzi on a deck that looked out onto the Pacific Ocean. You sit there in the sun drinking, cold beer or whatever, glass of wine. What day is it? What month is it? Who cares, right? What are we doing tonight? People call up, hey, it's another beautiful day. What do you want to do? I know what that life's like. I've done it. Been there, done that. Lived in the penthouse. I know what I'm talking about. You see what I mean? I know these people. I know the lifestyle firsthand. I do what I do because I want to do it. Someone says, well, sounds like you might wish you were still there. It's like, well, if I were there and I had some magical income that I didn't have this, sword of Damocles hanging over my head, burden, stress of life, yeah. But right now, the idea is I don't have that worry. I laid down in bed this morning. This show's a little bit later than usual. And I laid there in comfort, relaxation. I could do whatever I want to. I could do this show if I wanted to. I don't have to do this show. I don't make any money on this show, so I don't have to do it. Right? I'm just doing this show to share the service to others. A lot of people can't understand that because they're so much concerned with service to self. They're self-centered. You know, you are not free. You are merely presented with choices that all have predetermined outcomes. You know, people don't like that idea either. They like to think, you know, see, freedom is fun. All right. Free will, you know, is fun, but in this current environment, you are not free. Right? You're not free in this. You're not free in what I call the former United States. You're not free. How are you free? You know? Are you free when someone says,
Your papers, please.
no, I don't think so. You know, you're not free. We don't know where these things come from. We don't know what's going on. You know, we don't know what truth is. We just have people just spouting out, talking heads on TV, whether they're politicians or news people. Like I say, politics is pop culture. A bunch of old women and old men, right? Predominantly, right? Have you noticed that? The politicians, you know. And, you know, Save America, Build Back Better, you know. Totally out of touch with reality. People who've had the silver spoon their whole life. They have no idea what it's like, you know. They're not cleaning up the inner cities. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, you know. That's the thing. You know, it'd be so easy. It's so easy. And like one guy I remember like a year or two ago, like he went down to some Baltimore neighborhood, some street, like one of the worst streets, you know, in a really bad, you know, like kind of burned out almost Baltimore neighborhood, right? And he promoted it, I guess, through social media, went down there and people came along and they came down. And they basically got some dumpsters or whatever, bags and gloves, and they went down there and cleaned up the garbage and cleaned up a street, like in a day, right? You know, and some people donated bottled water and I guess gave them some food. That's how you do it, you know. And you know, hats off to that guy. I forget who he was, you know. And it was a demonstration. You know, nobody got the lesson, and I don't think it was really reported widely on the mainstream media that happened. And it was showing that if you know, if these phonies, these fakers, these ruling elitists, these politicians and all these other people, right? But Bezos will spend $2 billion to go to space for 7 minutes, right? You know, that kind of thing. But they won't, you know, nobody's going, you know, and these guys spent nothing, you know, basically just, you know, probably were funded on one of those fundraising sites, and probably lucky if it cost them in the $10,000 or something, if that, right? What does it take to, you know, order a few dumpsters, right? You know, a couple boxes of, you know, heavy duty multiply trash bags, some really good gloves, right? You know, heavy duty gloves, right? And to go into a place and just pick up trash and haul trash and garbage and some brooms and stuff and clean up a street, you know, that's disrepair, clean up a block, and throw all this stuff in dumpsters, sweep it up, right? And sweep the porches and stairs in the street, and leave it looking like a clean thing. And do it in a day, with a couple dozen people max, not even. Right? The cost in, a few $1,000. And these guys waste billions of dollars to just play. And Nancy Pelosi's husband makes $5 million on an inside trade. Or Rand Paul makes millions on an inside trade. Right? You think at the very least, out of guilt or compassion or empathy, but they have nothing. They're self-centered people. That they would, imagine if each of those type of people in their districts or in their own states, right, they would put together funds, just even in the hundreds of thousands, for the worst neighborhoods and organize these weekend cleanups. They could call them weekend cleanups. Right. And instead of it just being like these volunteers that did it, there's these unemployed people, and whatever the case may be. I said this years ago. I used to say this. I said the first step to getting someone who doesn't work back to work, all right, is to throw them some coins so that they see. So, in other words, have a weekend cleanup and have cash envelopes there at the end of the day, and everybody who comes out gets $100. And let's look at reality. The reality is, a lot of those people are going to take that $100 and they're going to buy. Some might buy some drugs. Some might go to the bar. Some might waste it on junk food, that type of thing. Others might, put it aside or, get themselves a bicycle or something, or who knows what. But the point is, if you have these regular weekend cleanups, people are going to start mentally equating a day of work with a paycheck, with cash. And while some people will just maybe are so caught up in the idea, in the circle of addiction or something, but the point is, at least that day, they're working and they're not sitting in the bar or sitting in, or just getting wasted. And then the idea comes to them in their head, and they watch other people and they think, if I put a couple of these $100 bills away, I could get something that I want, or I could buy a new pair of pants, or I could get out of this tent, or this homeless shelter. You see? But they don't do that, and you don't see media people. Like the cost of cleanup. See, you have to look at there's 50 states, right? There's 430 some congressmen. You got, senators, 2 senators from every state, the District of Columbia or whatever it is. Do they have senators? No, they don't have them. That's right. They're trying to get them there so they could, change the system. But, what would it cost? Nothing. Nothing to just do this kind of thing, divided up by that whole, thing. Meanwhile, all these congressmen are becoming millionaires through insider trading and other dirty deals. And they can't throw, 10 grand here in their district to clean up one of the worst neighborhoods and have a weekend cleanup and give and have somebody there that gives everybody who shows up at the end of the day, once the neighborhood looks spotless, once that street, you can just do one street a weekend. I'll give him an envelope with $100 in it. 5 $20 bills. Right? We'll see you next Saturday. You betcha. Imagine that. In 10 weeks, it's 10 streets, right? In 20 weeks, it's 20 streets cleaned up. You know, a lot of these inner city areas, you know, are just like areas like that. You know, you got 10 or 20 really bad blocks. And on those days, you know, you have the police there, police presence. So the gangs aren't going to be in there causing problems, you know, and that's part of the deal. You're a congressman, you're a senator, you know, whatever. You arrange it. You contact the mayor, you know, the police chief, and say, look, we're doing a cleanup on such and such, you know, at such and Vine. Right? We need just 2 squad cars, one on each end of the street. All right, just to make sure there's no trouble from any of the gangbangers. Right? And you go, and these people go in and they clean up. And like I'm saying, and you go into the worst areas and you just clean it up. And in some of them you might go back, have to circle back, because these loons, right? These gangbangers are lunatics. You know, so they'll there'll be people who will intentionally like turn over fine garbage bags, you know, garbage cans from other places and just dump trash in the middle of the street. You know, the crazies, you know, the real crazies. But what you do with crazies like that is you go and you clean up that mess then. But that's why I say I would put a dumpster on either side of the block, right? One of those, the giant construction dumpsters. So you order 2 of those. So you block off the street. You have a construction dumpster on one side, a construction dumpster on the other. And you got a squad car on one side and a squad car on the other. And you have an EMT there in case somebody gets cut, you know, whatever. Or if there's some knifing, right? Some goofy shit goes on. But basically it's just a bunch of brooms, a bunch of bags, trash bags, you know, bunch of gloves, and cleanup. Maybe a water truck, you know, hose down some areas and stuff like that where need be, you know, whatever. Clean up some feces or something like that, you know, some disinfectant, water truck and some disinfectant and stuff like that. Dump that stuff out and just spray, hose that stuff down and you know, whatever. But you know, these are, you know, this is simple solutions. You know, I'm just some guy, you know, like I say. But I was a fixer type of guy. I was always you know, find a solution, solve a problem solving. But you don't see them doing anything like that. You don't see them spending a piddly amount of money. So it's $3 trillion bills, they say, to build back better. When it literally, for like a couple $100,000, you could clean up like major inner city areas. Literally. Because, you know, not only would it be that you could help, you know, raise up some people by giving them the $100 envelopes, right? Some of these homeless people. But you would get all these volunteers. There's all these people that would volunteer for this. You know, church groups, right? Various civic groups, you know, other organizations, right? So, you know, you'd have no problem, you know, and it would be easy to pressure certain organizations and like the garbage company to donate the dumpster for the day, right? So, you know, that's what I'm trying to say. You know, it's all, you know, it's all charade. It's all crazy, you know, when you think about it. You know, these problems that, you know, that so-called alleged problems that we have, it's fake, you know, it's fake. And these people thinking, they have no idea how bad it's going to get. You know, how inflation is high. It's going to get worse. The cost of fuel. This is a carbon-based civilization. We're carbon-based, creatures. All right? All right? We're carbon-based life forms. All right? The trees breathe in CO2. Like that whole climate crisis stuff is such a crock of shit. It's not based on anything whatsoever, I mean, literally every week, another peer-reviewed paper's coming out. You want to deal with the climate, take a look at the sun. All right? That's what gives you heat. That's what gives you light. That's what affects the magnetic fields. And the other thing that people don't even realize now, I mean, have you been paying attention to this La Palma volcano and some of the other eruptions that have happened in the past year or two? You know how much stuff is being spewed up into the air? That's how the planet gets cooled down. Right? They talk about, trying to Bill Gates and stuff have all these elaborate plans. In fact, they've even been doing it. Of dimming, they literally want to dim the sun. So they want to put particulate matter. And they've been experimenting with that. It's like it doesn't get coverage, but they've done it. They're doing it. Who knows? But when volcanoes, this particular volcano in La Palma, that's been spewing up soot, and sulfur dioxide and stuff. Forget about CO2, man. The trees and the plants and the flowers and the crops, they love CO2, right? And we get oxygen out of that. But we don't get anything from sulfur dioxide, These are real toxins. But all that ash and soot that's going in the sky, that thing's been going off for a month. And we've had them in, other ones have been going off all over the planet. That's because we're in the solar minimum. Our magnetic field is weak. That allows cosmic rays in. That's heating up this magma, forcing this stuff up. See, people don't understand basic physics. They don't understand. They talk about, let's save the planet, but they don't even know how the planet works. They don't even know how the planet works. Right? The ecosystem. They don't understand it. Wherever they got this thing, this 0.004 CO2 as this being some kind of the enemy. It's your friend. It's your friend. Geez, craziness. It's so ridiculous.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I got on a rant that I didn't necessarily think I was going to get on a rant on. I mean, it just happened to flow. Living in a World of Illusion was the title of this show. And I put up a card, my title card, "You are not free, you are merely presented with choices that all have this predetermined outcomes." It's a song. It's from a music video of mine. I don't know if I'll check my show list here, see if I have it. Maybe it's on the Surrealistic Nightmare. I have "You Are a Wage Slave." You are a wage slave. You are a serf. You work your whole life. That's one of mine. You are a wage slave. Speaking of which, that's right. I'm a beat poet, my friends. Let me see if I have this other song that I was talking about. No. Don't have it. Sorry. Yeah, it's getting near Halloween time. Some people are into that.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
All right. Well, anyway, I mean, so like I say, off the top of my head, I ended up getting on a rant and a solution to a problem. Clean up America, right? Save America. Why didn't they do that in the last 4 years? Why didn't they do that the last 8 years prior to that? Okay? Because they don't care. You're telling me I'm smarter than they are? These people, all these staff, all these people in the West Wing, all these bureaucrats in these buildings all over Washington, Virginia, Maryland, right? They could, this never dawned on someone, or all these Congress people never even came up. It took like some one guy last year to like clean up some one Baltimore street or neighborhood or whatever he did. I mean, I saw the video of it, them cleaning it up, which was like ended up on YouTube. I probably didn't even make the nightly news. So, if people were sincere, this is why I'm saying you live in a corporatocracy. All right? They don't care about you. They don't. You're nothing to them. You're cattle. I used to do that all the time. I don't even have the, it was, that's what you are to them, the people in charge. You're cattle on a tax farm. That's the way they look at it. And I'm telling you, if you don't get that, you're a fool. It's like this whole pretty face idea. People watch these people on TV, or now it's not so much even the pretty face necessarily, though that's still a big part of it if you notice it. But it's like, or they're this woke, whatever, it's like I say, yoke. I'm going to call them yoke. This yokeism, egg on their face, folks, that like, fit some kind of like, category, right? We need one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these, and one of these. And now we got, okay. No, that one's doesn't look the role enough. So can you get somebody who looks a little more like that, like one of those? Right? Okay. Perfect. They're messing with you, man. Do you think they care about anything? They care about race, creed, color, religion, sexual preference, or any of that stuff? They don't care about that stuff. They're just dividing you. They're just messing with your head. Right? Because they're not cleaning up neighborhoods. They're not making life better for anybody. Right? They're just like, this is all one big diversion, and making it seem like, they're giving you a free, that kind of freedom. You are merely presented with choices that all have predetermined outcomes. And those predetermined outcomes are supporting the corporatocracy and these people in big media who are all making $20 million salaries, living in gated communities with their own personal, like, servants, right? Who in many cases are, are not white, put it that way. The hypocrisy, right? The hypocrisy of these people. It would have been so easy to clean up this country. It would have been so easy, to have things, make things better, to really build back better. But they didn't. See, they make it seem like as if they're important and as if like you have to pass some kind of legislation. Like government, you need government. But you don't. See, that's the whole idea is this guy, like I said, I'm giving you an example, or any guy or girl or whatever you want to be, whatever you want to call yourself. You know, who cares? Any group of individuals at any given time can be the instruments of change. Okay? You don't need the government. You know, you don't need the government. You know, and there are communities around America where people in certain groups, they decide to do something. Do you ever drive along a thing and say do you ever see those little signs on the side of the highway? This highway, clean, like this highway is sponsored by such and such a group that cleans it up, right? You ever see, you know what I'm talking about. I forget, there's some kind of terminology you see on those signs, but whatever it is. I don't drive in the highways anymore. But that's just people, right? Some group of people decide to adopt a highway. That's what it is. Adopt a highway program. Right. So some group, social group, whatever. Any kind of group, and they decide they're going to adopt that stretch of highway, and once a month or so, or whenever, I don't know what the frequency is they do it, they go out, I guess the state police or something puts a few, those orange fluorescent cones out, and these people show up with big plastic bags and gloves, right, and rakes maybe, and they clean up the trash that idiots throw out the window of their cars, right? Which they do. Idiots do that stuff. Some people throw their entire garbage bag out the window. You know what I mean? You see that in the roadside sometimes. It's like, this isn't a dump, man. This is a highway. It's a road. But, that Adopt a Highway program, you don't need the government for that. You don't need the government to tell you that in your own, in my neighborhood, there's this woman. I don't know who she is. But I guess they have some kind of neighborhood group or something. But I've never got close enough to her, but I see her. And she has an SUV. And every week, my phone is ringing at 7 in the morning. Hold on a second. Hello? Speaking. Well, the ignition cable is cracked at the pilot head because I had somebody come to clean it. Like I used to get an annual clean, and the burners themselves are at the end of the burners are off. The guy said it was from maybe condensation dripping down, so it's not safe, put it that way. And he showed me, it'll be on. It's not safe, but he showed me the cracked thing. It's like the spark thing that lights the gas. Last year, I had someone from weatherization come in and they changed the gas thing, but these guys said they needed to be changed because it was dangerous. The burners and that ignition cable thing is cracked. The thing that sparks it, because it could potentially cause the spark to not be directed where it should be directed. Well, I know. Well, I'm no. All right. I appreciate the call. Thanks. That's okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Bye. Well, you heard half of that conversation. That was my caseworker. And the reason I was going to cancel, I was going to stop streaming, but I decided not to. Because this is an example of I have a problem with my heater, and they're going to fix it, and they're going to fix it for free. And, but you have to go through the bureaucracy. And that was a person who has to now fax someone else, and then someone will call me back, and then that will after that conversation, that'll authorize this, and then hopefully they'll send somebody out to fix it, and then I'll have to sign like 12 papers in order to get this gas furnace fixed. But it's dangerous. It is dangerous. So, but I'm surprised at 7:20 in the morning they would call, but they said their phone systems were out or something yesterday. But anyway, it's live, the brutal honesty of being at the poverty level. But to show you that there is help out there for people, and that's another one of these things that is kept, is not reported on the news or by the politicians, when I always say this constantly, is that there's no reason why anyone who is below the poverty line, so to speak, or somebody who's poor, they all get a free phone. They all get food stamps, or what they call EBT. They get free health care with no deductions, and they get housing, right? Section 8 housing. Now, I happen to own my own house, which is a different story. So I don't get all those so-called benefits in quotations, but I do get benefits such as if I have a problem with heating or something like that, they will take care of it. And this follows right straight in with what my conversation was. That was just fascinating that, that happened. And actually interesting that my phone actually rang and worked, because half the time that thing doesn't work. It was weird. But, yeah. So the point of the matter is, poor people are being taken care of, can be taken care of better. Neighborhoods can be cleaned up. Highways can be cleaned up. America the Beautiful is, it is beautiful. And the areas that have totally been degraded can easily be brought back to life. But there's this, no one cares about that. There's no movement towards it. And that's what bothers me, because it doesn't cost trillions of dollars. It doesn't even cost, billions of dollars. In reality, it would maybe nationwide, it would be a few million. But in effect, if it was done piecemeal, like neighborhood by neighborhood, you are talking probably tens of thousands of dollars, and donations and that type of thing. People just helping people and people cleaning up areas. But there has to be the will for it, and the will for it usually comes from so-called leaders, politicians. But you don't see that happening because they don't care. It's a corporatocracy. It's big tech. It's, they're more worried about Apple's a $1 trillion, multi-trillion-dollar corporation. They're more about selling you a speaker that looks like a citronella candle for $99 than they are in cleaning up a San Francisco streets of feces. What would it cost them, right, to do that? And it would all be tax deductible. I'm sure they could arrange some kind of a thing, right? But they don't do it, right? They don't do it in the District of Columbia. They don't do it in New York City, in inner city Philadelphia, in Chicago, right? Go into those high crime neighborhoods. Like I say, there's ways of doing it. It's like there's just nobody has the will to do it because they don't want to. It's like they almost want there to be high crimes and these high murder counts every weekend, right? Because if they really wanted to solve the problem, they could do it. Neighborhood by neighborhood. It's like I always say, do a thing and don't be afraid. Like I said, I reached out to these people because of this furnace thing, because it would have cost me like $400 to have someone do what needed to be fixed. And I don't have that $400. You know, my freedom is fun thing is that I retired and excuse me, I live at the poverty level. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, I'm impoverished necessarily. It means that I'm living on a fixed income that I've decided this is the way I want to live because I want to live free. And these programs exist and are funded by people like me who worked for decades and decades and put money into these programs. And yeah, I'm getting something back from it, right? And I'm out here and that's why I do service like this to you, all right, to inform other people, you know, about these kinds of things. So I give back the best I can, and any other time I can. And I've served on, when I worked, I served on charity boards, and I used to do all that stuff. But the point of the matter is, at this point in my life, you know, so yeah, it's that simple. It's a simple solution, but there is no, it doesn't seem as if the people, the Davos set, the World Economic Forum, this great reset has anything to do, this Build Back Better has anything really to do with building back better. It seems like it has something to do with cronyism, with, you know, inside trading by people, by politicians, like corporations just bilking people, by allowing this runaway, these credit card companies and finance companies to just, you know, victimize the poor, right? You know, that's what it is. So it's a corporatocracy. It's like a behemoth, and it just keeps taking and taking, you know? It's craziness, man. It's crazy. So you're not free, you know, in this current society. You're merely presented with choices that all have predetermined outcomes. And those outcomes are basically to make the corporatocracy rich and turn you into some kind of wage slave, right? You will own nothing and you will be happy. That's the slogan from World Economic Forum and the Build Back Better campaign. And forget about the Save America thing. That's bull. Because, you know, what are they going to save? Do you understand? Has anyone who was around, excuse me for doing this, drinking coffee, it gets on your mustache. I'm a realistic person. Anyone who was around the last 4 years under the Trump administration and saw how the media and the opposing party treated Trump, and that caused all the, you know, it was just totally beyond gridlock, right? And they're still going after people and stuff. So do you honestly think he really should just go away? Because in other words, he's stirring the nest even more. And it doesn't matter if his aims are true or something like that, you know, because, you know, a lot of, you know, there's such hatred that sometimes, you know, it's almost like if you were to confront a situation, or if there was a situation in a bar, right? I'm going to put it into practical terms because sometimes people just don't understand it in the bigger picture. But if there's some guy who used to date some guy just broke up, some woman just dumped some dude, all right? And this dude is crying in his beer, more or less, at this bar, all right? And the guy, some guy that she works with, not necessarily that she's sleeping with right now, but that she likes or whatever, and that guy knows, walks into the bar, right? Well, suddenly you've got this major problem. So this guy crying in his beer, so to speak, is going to want to go to fisticuffs with this dude, even though this dude hasn't done necessarily anything and may just be a friend from work. But in his warped mind, okay, he lost, his girl, wife, whatever. So a guy like me, if I know who the guy is, I'm going to go over to the guy who walked in, the guy who works, the guy who's the friend from work, not the guy crying in the beer. And I'm going, look, man, I think it'd be best if you just left, because this situation is going to erupt. This guy's been drinking here for several hours. He's like, his wick is lit. All right. Just do the right thing. And I would just go somewhere else. This is not the right time for him even to see you. Okay. And that's the way it is with Trump. Like Trump should just disappeared. He should have just went over to his Scottish resort, or one of his other places and just stayed in the background. Instead, he's out there stirring up the pot because it's impossible for him to be an instrument of change and to save America, as their campaign goes. Because instead, it's just causing, look what it did 4 years ago. All right. So could you imagine, right? So it's not, that's hypocrisy. I mean, I think the whole thing's over. I know there's people that still, I'm game over guy, right? And I think we all need freedom is fun, and we have to find our own freedom, but not look to these people for freedom. All right. The freedom they're offering us is their predetermined outcomes. All right. That's not freedom that, saying that you will own nothing and you will be happy. You are not free under that thing. Okay. You're just presented with choices that have predetermined outcomes to benefit the corporatocracy or whomever. So you have to see life the way it is. Right? And reality. Change starts from within, and it's easy to change things. It's so easy. You just take it upon yourself. You do not need the government. All right? You don't need the government. They're trying to make themselves look like they're important. Right? But they're not important. Freedom is fun. Get the shirt, I mean, what a way to communicate to people, right? Without confrontation. That's the whole idea. Avoid confrontation. And right now, all I see is divisiveness and confrontation. And I see people's reliance on looking and say, these leaders lead us and save us. And the answer is it comes from within. You can do it yourself. An Adopt the Highway program is how you clean up a highway. And if you want to clean up a neighborhood, you organize a group of people and you do it one by one. And you put a couple dumpsters. And you contact the local police department and ask them if they could send a squad car over. Right? and have an EMT standing by, and see if you can get the local Walmarts or box stores to donate some brooms, gloves, and trash bags and stuff, so you could, sweep up, clean up, throw the stuff in the dumpster, and spend an afternoon and see if you can get some food truck or some local fast food restaurants to donate some, some food and drinks or a couple of cases of bottled water, things like that. I mean, we're talking about literally next to nothing to clean up a street. And like I was trying to say, if you just did it one day, one Saturday or Sunday afternoon and cleaned up one street, in 10 weeks, it's 10 streets. In 20 weeks, it's 20 streets. In 6 months, you could probably clean up some of the worst neighborhoods there are, right? With half volunteers and half pay the homeless, like I say, give them some cash. Let them see that let them relearn or the idea that there's a value to a day's work. Give them an envelope with $100 in it for showing up. And they do whatever they want to with that money. But the first couple of weeks, they might just go to the bar. Let's face it. They might just buy some, some weed or whatever, or worse. But the point is, after a couple of weeks, they might start thinking, if I save 25 or 50 a week and I do this for 10 more weeks, that's $500. That's the down payment. I could get into, an apartment. I mean, you know what I mean? I could get cleaned up. I could get, get my life back together. Or like I say, I could buy a bicycle. I could, whatever. So, that's the way it should have been. That's the solutions that, were possible to make it a better place. But we don't see that happening at all. It's just not happening. They just want to spend trillions and trillions of dollars and just like it's what they call the transfer of wealth from one, from the wage slave, the working middle class, poor, to the ultra rich, who are all hypocrites because they're doing inside trading and making millions of dollars, and they have, double-digit million salaries, and they live in gated communities or doorman buildings, and they've got, taken to work with drivers, and they have servants and maids and, whatever, taking care of them. And they pretend, right, that they care about the common man and woman. They don't care. All right? It's like TV. All they're trying to do is keep you tuned in during the commercial breaks. That's all. And politicians just want to stay in office so they could do more insider trading and become richer and wealthier. Because if they wanted to do otherwise, they would have. They haven't. Why has Chicago gotten worse? Why is inner city DC, inner city Philly, New York? Why are all these places worse? Why does crime rise? All right? You see what I mean? If these people cared, this isn't like a phenomenon of 2021. It's not a phenomenon of the last 4 years. It's not even a phenomenon of the 8 years prior to that. This is a decades, plural, old problem. All right? From both political parties, the political class, the ruling, so-called ruling elite, the Davos set, the World Economic Forum. All right? The U.S. is a corporatocracy, technocracy. I say this every freaking show. It's big tech, big data, right? Big pharma. military contractors, the Fed, Wall Street, traders. Remember we talked about BlackRock and Vanguard, these people that are got their fingers and ownership into just everything. Big media. These are billionaires. All right? Trillionaires. And I mean, the companies are make trillions. All right? Life is cheap, is nothing to them. We are nothing more than cattle to them. That's all we are. That's it. That's it. And the sooner you realize that, the better. And you know, yeah, it's pretty darn scary. So, you know, anyway.
Good morning.
Anyway, that's the end of that. Thanks for watching the show. Visit TonyCaravanLive.com or ROCKFLUX.com, TonyCaravanLive.locals.com, and, you know, join. Otherwise, buy my book and get the print copy. Go to Great Solar Stuff. Cold weather's coming upon us. There's going to be power outages and stuff like that. You want to take care of yourself and your family and your loved ones and your pets and all that stuff. Make sure that you know, if the power goes out, like I say, we just had a power outage here for 6 hours or more because some stupid delivery truck driver hit a pole just a half a block up from me. You know, I talked about that in a previous show. And luckily I had some stuff that I'd gotten because I test everything that's on Great Solar Stuff. And I had power and I was able to survive through it. Right? And so it was, my quality of life remained the same. Anyway, thanks for watching. And I guess I will